In the Bible, Melchizedek, meaning king of righteousness, my king is righteousness, or my king is Zedek, was both the king of Salem and the priest of El Elyon, often translated as the Most High God. His first mention is in Genesis 14:18-20, where he provides bread and wine and blesses Abram and El Elyon. Within Christianity, the Epistle to the Hebrews identifies Jesus as the high priest forever in the order of Melchizedek, signifying that Jesus permanently assumes the role of high priest. In Chazalic literature, specifically in Targum Jonathan, Targum Yerushalmi, and the Babylonian Talmud, Melchizedek's name is presented as a nickname for Shem. The Genesis 14 narrative is part of a larger story detailing Abram's return after defeating King Chedorlaomer and his encounter with Bera, the king of Sodom. During this meeting, Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brings out bread and wine, identifying himself as the priest of the Most High God. He blesses Abram, acknowledging God as the possessor of heaven and earth, and expresses gratitude for the victory over Abram's enemies. Additionally, Melchizedek gives Abram a tithe from all. Some textual critics argue that these verses, 18-20, featuring Melchizedek, seem to be an informal insertion into the narrative, disrupting the account of Abram's meeting with the king of Sodom. The origin and purpose of this addition are unclear, with no consensus among scholars. Speculations include the possibility of inserting the story to legitimize the priesthood and tithes associated with the Second Temple, or to emphasize the superiority of Zadokite priests over Levite priests. The second and final mention of Melchizedek in the Hebrew Bible is found in Psalm 110. 4. Various translations following the Septuagint render it as, "The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever after the manner of Melchizedek." Alternatively, another translation maintains Melchizedek as a personal name, but alters the person being addressed. "You are a priest forever by my order," or "on my account, O Melchizedek." In this interpretation, Melchizedek is the one addressed throughout the psalm. In Chazalic literature, the primary character of the psalm is often attributed to King David, seen as a righteous king of Salem with priest-like responsibilities similar to Melchizedek. However, the Babylonian Talmud interprets the chapter as referring to Abram, victorious in battling to save his nephew Lot and deserving of priesthood. The Zohar identifies the mentioned Melchizedek as Aaron the Cohen Gadol, high priest. Concerning the residence of Melchizedek, Samaritan tradition identifies Salem as a location on the slopes of Mount Gerizim, considered a blessed place for the children of Israel when they initially crossed the Jordan River. The Samaritans specifically designate Gerizim, not Jerusalem, as the intended site for the temple, reflecting a sectarian purpose in the text. However, this practice is not unique to the Samaritans. The possessive suffix is also present in the 3rd, or 2nd century BC Book of Jubilees, and Greek possessive suffixes appear in the Septuagint version of Genesis. In connection with Genesis 14:20, the New Testament's Hebrews chapter 7 verses 2 and 4 mention that the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoil to Melchizedek. Psalm 110. 4 is cited in the New Testament's letter to the Hebrews to highlight that Jesus, considered the Messiah in the letter, had a priesthood predating the Jewish Aaronic priesthood. Hebrews 5:5-6. Josephus, in his work War of the Jews, refers to Melchizedek as a Canaanite chief, but in Antiquities of the Jews, he identifies him as a priest. Philo associates Melchizedek with the Logos, considering him a priest of God honored with an untutored priesthood. The second book of Enoch, a presumed Jewish sectarian text from the 1st century AD, contains the exaltation of Melchizedek. This section narrates the birth of Melchizedek from a virgin named Sophonim, or Sopanima, the wife of Ner, Noah's brother. Melchizedek emerges fully developed, clothed, speaking, and blessing the Lord beside his deceased mother. Marked with the badge of priesthood, he is taken to the Garden of Eden by the archangel Gabriel, or Michael in some manuscripts, 40 days later, thus avoiding the deluge without being on Noah's Ark. The story of Melchizedek, a brief pseudepigraphon, was likely composed in Greek in the first 3 centuries AD, possibly within a Jewish context. Although existing today only in Christian versions and found in at least 10 languages, it originated in the early centuries AD, The fragment known as 11Q13, discovered in Cave 11 at Qumran in the West Bank and part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, dates back to the end of the 2nd or the beginning of the 1st century BC. This text revolves around Melchizedek, portraying him as a divine being referred to as El or Elohim, titles typically reserved for God. According to the fragment, Melchizedek will announce the Day of Atonement, providing atonement for those predestined to him and passing judgment on the peoples. The Genesis Apocryphon, 1 Capgen, echoes information from the Book of Genesis. Additionally, other Qumran scrolls suggest that Melchizedek was associated with the archangel Michael, considered a heavenly priest. In this interpretation, Michael is referred to as Melchizedek, contrasting with Belial, who is called Melchi-Resha, meaning king of wickedness. The Epistle to the Hebrews follows this interpretation, explicitly stating in Greek that Melchizedek's name means king of righteousness, and translating his title, King of Salem, to King of Peace. The context of this interpretation is the presentation of Melchizedek's eternal priesthood associated with Jesus Christ, described as made like unto the Son of God abideth a priest continually. In Chazalic literature, there is a unanimous identification of Melchizedek as Shem, the son of Noah. This consensus is found in various sources such as Targum Yonathan to Genesis chapter 14, Genesis Rabbah 46:7, and the Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Nedarim 32b. The Talmud Bavli credits Shem, along with his Beth Din court of justice, as pioneers in the prohibition of prostitution. However, among the Rishonim, there is a divergence of opinions regarding whether Salem was the allocated residence of Melchizedek Shem by his father Noah, or if he was a foreigner in Salem, which was considered the rightful land of his brother Cham. The Ramban believes that the land rightfully belonged to the descendants of Cham, suggesting that Melchizedek Shem left his home country to come to Salem as a foreigner, driven by the desire to serve God as a Cohen. On the other hand, Rashi argues that the land of Canaan was initially allotted to Shem by his father Noah, and the descendants of Cham took control of the land through forced expansion. While Melchizedek is the first person in the Torah to be called a Kohen, priest, the Midrash suggests that Adam held the priesthood, Kehuna, before him. Rabbinic commentators on the Torah explain that Melchizedek, sometimes associated with Shem, received the priesthood through his father, Noah's blessing, which stated, God beatified Japheth and will dwell in the house of Shem. According to Jewish legend, the dual role of Melchizedek as both king and priest is clarified by recognizing Shem as a progenitor of the Davidic monarchy. This monarchy descended from both Judah and Tamar, who, as the daughter of the high priest Shem, faced the sentence of death by fire when accused of prostitution. In the Zohar, compiled by Moses de Leon in the 1290s, Melchizedek, king of Salem, is seen as a reference to the king who rules with complete sovereignty. Another interpretation suggests that Melchizedek signifies the lower world, while king of Salem signifies the upper world. Zohar 1, 86b, 87a. In the Zohar's commentary on Genesis 14, Rabbi Yitzchak proposes that God gave a tithe to Abram by removing the Hebrew letter he from his throne of glory and presenting it to Abram's soul for his benefit. This letter he is the one added to Abram's name, transforming it into Abraham in Genesis. A set of early Gnostic manuscripts, dating back to the 4th century or earlier, was discovered in 1945 and is known as the Nag Hammadi Library. Among these texts is a tractate related to Melchizedek, proposing the idea that Melchizedek is Jesus Christ. In this Gnostic perspective, Melchizedek, identified as Jesus Christ, undergoes a life of preaching, death, and resurrection, the coming of the Son of God. Melchizedek predicts his return to bring peace, supported by God, and functions as a priest-king dispensing justice. The connection with Christ is explicitly made in the Epistle to the Hebrews, where Melchizedek, referred to as the King of Righteousness and King of Peace, is associated with the eternal priesthood of the Son of God. The Christological interpretation of Melchizedek as a prefiguration or prototype of Christ has been understood differently among Christian denominations. The Pelagians, for instance, considered Melchizedek merely as a man who lived a perfect life. Typological associations between Jesus Christ and Old Testament characters are common in the New Testament and later Christian writings. Jesus Christ is also linked with figures like Adam, as the new Adam, and Abraham. The offering of bread and wine by Melchizedek has been interpreted by church fathers, including Clement of Alexandria, as a prefiguration of the Eucharist. While the Quran does not explicitly mention Melchizedek, some interpretations have associated him with the figure known as the Khidr. In Ismailism, Melchizedek, referred to as Malik as-Salam, meaning King of Peace, is believed to have played a role in initiating Abraham into prophethood. According to an Ismaili treatise from the 1300s, it is proclaimed that Melchizedek will return as a righteous judge after the resurrection. In this role, he will unveil the divine mysteries that prophets have kept secret throughout the centuries. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.